Hello again, Gary Stearman. Time for another Prophecy in the News daily update. It is the 25th of October, a Thursday, and Bob Ulrich is with me. We're going to talk about this DVD. It's called Change the Heart, Change the World, and it's all about modern Israel. Bob, on the back of this DVD, there is a question. Who is the rightful owner of this disputed land called Israel?
Boy, that's a loaded question.
It is.
It's almost as good as the verse in Scripture that says, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
Yeah.
How do we interpret that?
Well, how do we interpret it? Actually, with Jerusalem or in Jerusalem lies the destiny of the entire world. But in fact, I would say that Jerusalem is at the focal point of the least peaceful area in the world today.
That's an understatement. The Arab Spring, or as I like to call it, the Arab nuclear nightmare, is in full speed ahead. Egypt, Syria, Iran. The cover of the magazine, which most people are probably just getting in their mailbox right now, the November issue of Prophecy in the News, the birth and death of modern Jordan. So the Middle East is changing, and it looks like we're going to have some more changes in the days ahead. But ultimately, it all comes down to this battle. It's 4,000 years old between Isaac and Ishmael, between the Jews and the Muslims, the Palestinians.
You know, this production that we have here on DVD, Change the Heart, Change the World, is unique in several ways. One, it's a great, compact history of modern Israel. What is Israel? From the perspective of history, going back to the days of the Romans, the diaspora of the Jews, the destruction of the temple in AD 70, the Jewish diaspora after their defeat by Hadrian's armies in 135 AD, and then what happened to the land since then, in the 1800 years or so, when the Jews have been scattered all over the world, and then what happened to it when they came back? How did they come back, and under what circumstances? And this is a story, Bob, that is not often told, to get the whole comprehensive story in a way that you can understand it.
It's a brilliant visual chronology, is what it is, of the Jewish experience, that most Christians literally have no comprehension of what really happened to bring the Jews all the way back in the 1800s. You know, the Zionist Congress began, the Balfour Declaration in 1917, and that whole story is a miracle unto itself. You know, how they were able to, even get Lord Balfour to give this declaration that the Jews deserved a homeland. And then, of course, we went into the Holocaust. Adolf Hitler had a plan. His plan backfired. God used the Holocaust to bring the Jewish people back to Israel, back to the Promised Land. And in 1948, when the United Nations and Russia cast the deciding vote in the UN, which I find a little humorous, I'm sure they probably regret that today. And the Old Testament prophet Zechariah talks about Jerusalem being this burdensome stone. The whole world, armies literally from the entire world one day will surround Jerusalem. But that DVD, it was produced by a good friend of mine, Dr. Marcia Reno from Colorado. She was basically the one who created a lot of the material for Grizzly Adams Productions over the years. And the format that you're going to see on there is kind of similar to what Grizzly Adams has been kind of famous for. They don't present just one side of the story. They don't smash you over the head with the Bible. They have the Jew in the market presenting, his perspective on peace with the Arabs. Then you have the stone thrower, from the Palestinian side with their side of the story. Then you have the Islamic cleric, and you have the Jewish rabbi. And they go back and forth, and they take all the main arguments, and they answer them. For example, some years ago, Israel put up a dividing wall that separated and stopped the terrorist attacks and the bombings and all the terrible things that were going on, where they would come into pizza restaurants in Israel and blow up 100 people. And the Palestinians, furious about that wall because it stopped them from coming over and working and earning an income. But the Jewish side of it is, what choice did we have? When we allowed you to come into our country, you blew up innocent, men, women, and children. So that's kind of the crux of the DVD. It presents both sides of the story.
This DVD has extended interviews as one of its options. You can click on the extended interviews and get some great history lessons. By the way, I know the history of the Middle East pretty well, and I was quite fascinated by this, Bob. It didn't bore me at all. I learned 2-3 little things that I had not known by watching this DVD. But the other side of it is fascinating. It's the people side. A gentleman by the name of David Rawlings, who grew up in Israel with Arabs, is interviewed, and he gives his views about what it was like growing up in Israeli Arab society. A gentleman here who grew up in Beirut, his name's Kamal Salim, grew up as a jihadist in Lebanon. And his father encouraged him to be a jihadist. And yet, would you believe that he received Christ? He found Christ and is now an active Christian.
Well, therein lies the real core of this DVD.
Yeah.
It's interviewing former terrorists who've decided that this isn't the way to go.
That's right.
And amazingly, they became Christians. They became followers of Christ. And instantly, they were no longer terrorists, and they began friendly relations with their Jewish neighbors and Jewish people, and everything was okay. And I think even the name, change the heart, change the world.
Mm-hmm.
How do we pray for the peace of Jerusalem? How do you change the minds and hearts of the people over there who've had this 4,000-year-old hatred, for each other, and still hate each other with a passion we can't? I mean, the only thing I can think about is the Hatfields and the McCoys, and I don't know either one of those families. But they're like these family feuds, except this one has existed for 4 millennia. It's almost unheard of. And here we are today, watching the Middle East change. There's been no progress in any type of peace talks. So the future of the Middle East, the future of Israel, the future of the Palestinians, are we heading to a Palestinian state one day?
Well, you know and I know, having read Bible prophecy, what is about to happen in the Middle East. We're poised on the precipice of an incredible clash of nations. And it'll all be focused on Jerusalem, just like Zechariah said in Zechariah 12. I'm going to bring all nations when they shall be in siege against Jerusalem. And so we know what's going to happen. We also understand that, Bob, we don't talk about this very much, but we're on the verge, I think, of one of the greatest revivals in history. And it's going to happen within the context of the upcoming war. The Bible talks about it in the book of Revelation. There's going to be an incredible revival. And I believe a lot of the Islamic world is going to come to Christ. And that's the view taken by this DVD.
Well, you have another DVD there, too, that is kind of a companion to it, and it's actually the same DVD. It's 2 DVDs in the set. It's the same DVD, except it has a study guide. It's completely designed and tailored to take into a Bible study group and break into 4 different lessons, into a Sunday school class. A lot of pastors, could even show this to their congregation. I think it's so important. So it's an interactive DVD that allows people to kind of learn.
I'll just open it up here. It has the 4-part DVD here, but it's accompanied by a CD-ROM. 58 pages of text, of history, and of lessons that are placed in the context so that you can print these pages off, pass them out to a class, and people can actually learn about Jewish history and about the details of the current conflict that people really need to know about.
Well, lessons right from the life of Abraham.
Yeah.
And that's what started this whole conflict is Abraham and Sarah and Hagar, who gave birth to Ishmael, who gave birth
Well, Bob, you said it a minute ago,
people.
and I'm gonna take up where you left off. Psalm 122, and I won't read the whole psalm, but 122:6 says, "Pray for the peace of Jerusalem; they shall prosper that love thee. Peace be within thy walls, and prosperity within thy palaces." That's basically the answer to the world's problems, all in a tiny little city there in the Middle East, besieged by people with private agendas and carrying knives and guns, and out of that whole thing, God is going to bring peace. Let me just tell you about the the DVDs. The Change the Heart, Change the World, yours for $14.95 plus shipping and handling. You've got the number on your screen right now. You can call and order it. Or the two-parter here that's arranged as a lesson. Change the Heart, Change the World, a DVD and a CD-ROM with 58 pages of lessons and lesson plans, and you can really conduct a great class in your church, your Sunday school, or maybe your homeschool class. Who knows? The kids will learn a lot. And this one is $29.95 plus shipping and handling. You've got all the info on your screen, so order them today. Bob, this is a useful conversation. I love talking about Israel.
Well, I love the fact that this DVD was shot on location in Israel. I've never been to Israel. I'm jealous of a lot of the people who've been able to go, and for whatever reason, I've just never been able to free up the time. You know, you see the wars and the conflicts over there, and you think to yourself, well, this wouldn't be a good time to go. But I kind of, just get a chill down my spine when I see some of the overhead footage, when I see the Sea of Galilee, when I see the tombs of Abraham and Sarah and Isaac. No, Ishmael is not buried in that tomb. Just
That's true.
The three patriarchs. But it's a really moving presentation, done by a good friend of mine who's, I think, really poured her heart and soul in creating a balanced approach to the conflict and trying to show both sides that there is hope and there is peace. Now, could I say one more little thing?
Sure.
The people who watch this program, the daily news update on a daily basis, I think are amongst the most loyal people that we have who really support our ministry. So I want to tell you today that for the next 2 or 3, 4 weeks, I just want you to pay very close attention to this update and some future announcements that we're going to be making. We want to make sure that you hear these announcements first and you get the first opportunity. And by now, you've probably figured out what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to stop.
I've got to stop you right there, Bob, before you can go any further.
I won't go any further.
If I didn't stop Bob, he would give it away.
I would not.
He is unable to control himself.
There's some good things happening.
There are
in
some
the
good
days
things
ahead.
happening, and we want you to stay with us because I think you'll be as excited as we are about what's upcoming. Bob, always good to talk to you.
You bet.
And we'll see you soon. See you soon, too. And I hope in the air. So keep looking up.